everyone. Welcome to another episode of Taking Up Space, a Michelle Mayer podcast. Super excited about coming forward today, y'all. I want to speak to something fun today. I went to the movies. Yay! I'm not a big movie buff, but when I do go to the movies, I go and I watch things that I really want to see. And today, well, not today, a couple of days ago, I went to the movies. My daughter wanted to go see one particular movie, and I was like, no, I don't want to see it. And I hadn't noticed what was playing, so we were scrolling through the movie listings, and I saw Blink Twice. I thought, that looks interesting. And I saw the trailer, and I was like, let's go see that. So we went to go see it, and I'm so glad that I did. It was actually very good. Very good. Zoe Kravitz produced it. Didn't know that before I saw it. That was not a reason why I went to go see it. Her husband, I want to say his name correctly. I think it's Channing Tatum. Y'all don't be mad at me. I didn't write it down, and but he's gorgeous. Woo, he's gorgeous. Gorgeous. You go, Zoe. He did a really good job in his role as Slater King, and Frida. I don't know her real name, but her role is Frida. Did an excellent job in her role. All the actors and actresses in the movie did really well. So I want to speak to that as it relates to, I don't want to speak too much to the movie because you guys can go watch the movie yourselves. I totally encourage it. But I want to speak to the theme of the movie and really how it made an impression upon me. I also saw another movie at home. I had been watching social media. Some family members of mine had spoke to this movie, and I said, well, I'm gonna watch it. And then I saw on social media other people creating a buzz about it, especially in the faith-based community, people saying that they didn't want to go see it because they felt like it was demonic and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I didn't hear that from anyone in my family. So I watched it last night on Netflix, The Deliverance. And I want to speak to that as well, you guys. So like I said, I don't watch a lot of movies, but when I'm at home and I'm doing things around the house, I watch Gaia on TV or Ancient Aliens. I'm an Ancient Aliens lover. And I watch a lot of sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi enthusiast. I love sci-fi. So I watch those things. But, the things that I enjoy have to do with things that I could imagine being true. Or faith-based things, spiritual things. But I really don't watch a lot of romantic comedies and things of that nature. I do sometimes, but mostly I don't. Heck, I'll even watch Snapped. I just like reality-based content. Things that I can see either being referenced to something reality-based that has a spiritual component to it or a psychological component to it. And that's what got me with both the Deliverance and Blink Twice. So, not to speak to the movie directly, but in the movie Blink Twice, what I really took from it, because it's been on my spirit today as I was taking care of business, I was thinking about how I was going to come forward with this. And, in life, all of us have baggage. All of us. There's not anyone, especially if you get to my age, nobody gets to my age without having some form of baggage. I don't care where you are in the world. If you've lived any significant amount of time, you got some baggage, friend. You got some mistakes. You've got some things you wish you would have done better. You've got some things you wish other people could have done better. That you're still dealing with all these things. They're all plaguing you, right? They never really leave you. A lot of these things change you. The longer you keep going in and out of the things of this life, the more you will notice that they will change you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And the thing with trauma, friend, when we experience trauma, it often happens at the most inopportune times in our lives. The times in our lives when we couldn't afford to really go through that. And this is why it leaves such a heavy mark. Whether it's in your childhood and you were traumatized by a person, an adult or whatever, it left you with a void, a demon to wrestle with throughout your life until you get to a place where you can manage that demon or you can eradicate it. But a lot of times when we go through these things, these demons, these traumatic experiences linger with us because life is constantly happening. It's not as if life stops to give us time to go sit off in, the dark areas of space by ourselves for a season to figure our stuff out. None of us have that luxury. We have to keep going. We have to keep at whatever we're at and heal from these traumas. Now, some of us are blessed with loving surroundings of people that are privy to our trauma and that support us in our healing. But 9 times out of 10, if you keep on living, you will face situations where you will not have that luxury. You will be in situations where you want to act like it don't bother you as bad. You want to act like, it was nothing. I'm fine. Knowing darn well you're not even sleeping at night because of it. You can't even drive down the street in silence long because of it. Or you can't drive down the street with the radio on long because of it. You can't hear a certain song because of it. You can't go to certain areas because of it. All of these things we wrestle with because trauma happens and life keeps going. And we got to keep going with life. None of us have the luxury of stopping and healing from our traumas. I can speak to myself, friend, when I can recall times when I had my daughter. I went through the most traumatic experience of my life. I was traumatized, friend. Yet I was there with the baby. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know which way to go. I didn't have any money. I was manless. It was a man down. I was down bad. I was down bad, y'all. I'm telling you. Bad. And I still had to keep going. I couldn't sit in the corner and heal from it. I couldn't wait to get a word from God in which direction to go. I had to go. I had to silence my mind as to all the negatives that could potentially pile upon this negative. I had to psych myself out, be in complete denial, and create a reality and move into that direction. Moving on, I went through when my mom died. I was traumatized, friend. I saw my mother go from healthy to sick to worse to worse. I recall all the conversations in between, all the fears, the confusion that I had, that she had, until she passed. And I was there for that. But my point in all of this is to tell you that life did not stop when I went through those things. I had to keep going. Hurt, confused, disappointed, scared, all of that. I had to still keep going. And a lot of us are going through this same thing, and we're putting on a happy face. And none of us are showing the pain and the confusion and the fear and all of the feelings that we have, because nobody's going to be able to solve it for you anyway. What's the point? If anything, what you will attract are predators that'll prey on it, that'll take bits and pieces of your experience and tuck it in their back pocket because they know you're probably not going to stay in that. And you're probably destined for something greater. So they'll wait until you do get into your greater years to pull them things out of their back pocket and lay them on the table and say, I got this card on you. I want to remind you of these things. So the fear of that, the knowledge of that, makes us not even show our hand. So yeah, some of us go through treatment. What do you call it? I want to say training. We go through therapy because that's what you're supposed to do. Go to therapy. You know what I mean? Those that can't afford therapy go to church and they get them the word every week, and they go to Bible study and they enamor themselves in the word and they let the word cover them, and the word is a therapy in itself. But they're not totally whole from it. They're moving forward, but they're moving forward broken. And this movie is that. This individual was traumatized himself. And because he could never really control the demons that traumatized him, he had to find an outlet for them. And the outlet for them he created in a fake reality. A vacation. A place of laughter and joy amongst friends. That he could allow those demons to run rampant within, and then give someone, all the victims, an out, a courtesy, which was to the ability to forget it even happened. It's interesting. You know, a couple of takeaways from the movie is when one quote that I heard, I don't know if it was at the end of the movie or throughout the movie, because I remember it being peppered throughout the movie, is in the end of the movie, this individual is sitting there and he's saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Because in his spirit, he knows he's wrong. In his spirit, he knew he was wrong for the way he treated those people. But isn't that like everybody? Most people know when they're wrong. Most people know when they do too much. Most people have an idea, something that's come to them and say, you shouldn't be doing this. But it's those demons that you feel like you got to release, that you allow to justify such things. It's the trauma that you had that you never even came to terms with. Because to come to terms with your trauma, friend, means that you slow down. It means that you take a step back. Let somebody else go. Because you need to come to terms with your trauma. And a lot of times, many of us cannot afford to do that. We got people depending on us. Everybody got their hand out. Everybody. You go to that therapist has their hand out at the end of that session. Everybody got a hand out. So it's expensive to take the time out. It's frightening because in taking the time out, that means that you're risking everything collapsing. Taking the time out reveals who you're pulling your strength from. Oh, you say you have faith. You say you have a knowing. How can I tell? Let me look in your life. If I took an aerial perspective, if someone took the roof off of my house and they saw me day to day, would they say that I'm walking on faith? Or I'm walking on knowing? Or would they say I'm over here shaking like a leaf? Would they? Would you say, wow, she's leaning 1,000% on God? Or would you say, She don't know which way she's going. She has no idea. She needs God. This individual at the end of the movie is so disheartened. All of his experiences that he has inflicted upon these people have swelled up within him because the veil has been lifted. He's been uncovered. His sin is laid bare. And he's sitting there like a child. He looks like a child being chastised by a parent, his mother. This woman is standing up. He's sitting there and he's weeping. And he's saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And you can tell he means it. And he's speaking it from all of those past things he's done. And she realizes what he has done. Yet she feels empowered. She feels capable. But she's the victim. She's the one that has been on the receiving end of all of his trauma. Trauma she didn't even know was being inflicted upon her. That she has come into the realization in within seconds. She stands there in power. And he says, there's no such thing as forgiveness. It's just forgetting. And I thought, wow, that's why. He found a way to consistently release the demons that were plaguing him while providing all of the victims, the recipients of his trauma, with the luxury of forgetting. How many of us in this life do that? How many of us do that? How many of us have inflicted trauma upon people and judge them for the avenues they take to forget? I'm talking about major trauma. Trauma that you would think someone might have studied to perfect. Major trauma. Yet you inflict it because you bought into this system based off of your own trauma. You learned it from your own traumatizer. Now you just a cult of traumatizers unleashed in the world. A whole cult. And you judge people by the avenues they take in consoling the remnants of your trauma that you've inflicted upon them. Never for a second looking at yourself and saying, I should not do this. This man was never strong enough to say, I should not do this. Had he not been as successful as he was, he's a billionaire. He wouldn't have been able to do that. But the money gave him the luxury of not having to face his demons. And by being able to create a fake reality to perpetuate this trauma on other people, thus releasing his demons for a season upon other people. Allowing his demons to be released upon other people, creating trauma within them, so that he alone does not have to hold the weight and the attention of such demons. It was too heavy for him. He had to create something to release it to. He didn't want to be by himself and wrestling with it. It was an interesting movie. You got to watch it. Got to watch it. But he came across this one woman who he had used previously. Didn't even remember it. As a recipient of such trauma. And this time she remembered. Gave him a taste of his own medicine. Allowed him to forget. Saved him from himself. Saved him. The woman he called his best friend. He said this woman was his best friend before she saved him from himself. So there's obviously a history there. His best friend. Key part of the movie I saw was they were all outside eating, and she was partaking of some steak, and she was like, "Are you gonna have some?" He's like, "I don't eat red meat." So she, being the team player that she is, she took the steak off of her plate and put it back. Then in the end, after giving him a taste of his own medicine, after coming into the realization of the game, because all she needed to know was how to play the game. She didn't know the rules, and that's why she was getting played. But once she became aware of the rules, she began playing the game. And in the end, they're sitting amongst these same people, some of the same people, in an environment she was initially so impressed with, feeling as if, wow, look at me, I'm surrounded by all these people. I don't even feel like I deserve to be here. Well, no, I can't even say that, because in the movie it never showed her feeling undeserving. She always felt deserving. It was as if she just wasn't invited. She wasn't invited. Now she's at the seat, the head seat, with the owner, the king. She's his wife. And she sits there. And she's making introductions, and she's greeting people, being gracious and kind. And she says, "Here, baby, here's your vape. And eat your steak." That was interesting. Because now he's taking the medicine that he had given to her, he's ingesting it. And now he's doing as she's doing. It was very interesting, y'all. I'm only being as vague as I am because I don't want to give away the movie. I would go deeper. Like if this was an older movie, I'd be going all kind of ways with it. But I don't want to give away the movie because it did just start. It did just show in the movie theater, and I don't want to do it any disservice to it. So it was a very good movie. I want to move on from that and jump into The Deliverance. Now, The Deliverance is on Netflix. I know many people have seen it. The reason why I'm bringing up The Deliverance, y'all, is because, in watching, before I saw it, I had one cousin say that it was really good, and then I saw this other guy on social media say it was really, really good. Then I go on another platform and I'm seeing people say stuff like they don't want to see it. They watched part of it in the first 2 minutes. They saw demons and they didn't want to see any more of it. And these are faith-based channels that I watch. And I'm like, oh, I did not know this was a demonic movie. So I watched it. And I want to speak to what I saw. I don't want to speak to what I saw. I want to speak to where we are as believers, knowers, all this kind of stuff. You know, in my Bible studies, I speak to the realities of the Bible. I've studied it. I've studied the Bible my whole life. And I have walked many spiritual paths throughout my life. And I guess, you know, I don't want to make it seem like I'm any different from you guys. I'm not this, you know, mighty Amazon spiritual woman. I've just come in and out of things. I've stayed in things long times. And I've wrestled with them. This movie, The Deliverance, when you watch it, could you imagine? Now, this woman went through this for a season. Could you imagine going through this for years? I'm talking about years. Could you? And when I hear people say things like, oh, this is demonic, we don't need to see this, and this, that, and the other, what Bible are y'all reading? Where is your courage, people? Y'all, I'm telling you, a lot of people that are supposedly faith-based, I've been concerned when people tell me that they're faith-based. Especially if they're like my age group. Because at this stage in your life, friend, if you're 30, 40, 50, you got to get to knowing something. This is not a hope and a wish. This is a I am. I didn't see anything that was so frightening of that movie. I'm going to look at it again today. It was, you know, it was a little thrilling because of the music and stuff. But what was the derailing portion of it for you to turn away? What scared you? Friend, I have been in situations in real life that was scarier than some of that. I'm here to tell you. And see, this is the part. And this is why I respect spiritual people. I do. I'm not here to judge anybody's path. Because a lot of times, friend, when the dust settles, we're going to see where all roads lead to. We're going to be surprised. Jesus himself said, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. If it weren't true, I wouldn't have told you. The fact that you get shook is concerning. Because one of the main themes of the Bible that God himself has said to Moses and to all of the many leaders over the children, I cannot count how many times God has said it. Do not fear. Be of good courage. Not just be of courage, friend. Be of good courage. And do not fear. If you can accept an angel, you got to be able to accept the fact that there are demons. And you must know your role. Because in knowing your role, all of that fear gets swept out the door. You got to know the God that is over your house. If you don't know the God intimately, deeply, that is over your house, all of those things will scare you. If the winds blow strong enough at your door, it will scare you, friend. And you'll be in here trembling and shaking and crying and overly worried and so worried you can't move. There are people out here wrestling with real life demons, the shaitans of the world, and you would never know it. Yet you get incapacitated so much that you can't even watch a movie. I don't want to come off like I'm condemning. I don't. But there was a time when we had elders in place that knew how to go to war with such things. There was a solution that many families had for such things. A go-to person that would, a prayer warrior. You got to have a warrior spirit in this life. And this is part of the problem. The only time we fear is when we don't have a solution to something. That's all. When something comes upon you and you know it, and you know how to get after it, you're not afraid. You're only afraid when you don't know it. And that's the part that's concerning. You're not going to get me shook with nothing like that. Man. Know yourselves. No, don't just act like you know. You know how you know? You know by learning as much as you can and going out in life and leaning on what you know. And allowing life to happen. Learning from it and keep going. And not living in fear like that. It has been the things that frightened me the most that made me go towards them more. I've never been the type of person to shy away from things that scared me. I encourage you to not be that way either. I encourage you not to go looking for things that scare you. But when they come along your path and you are walking in a direction that you know that you should be walking in and they come across your path, you must face them. Don't stop and turn. Because what happens is you'll stop and turn every time. And before you know it, you get nowhere. You got no battles under your belt. The battles are necessary. Them demons are necessary, friend. You got to keep going. It reminds me of being in a haunted house. I was in Atlanta. They got this thing called the haunted house. I took my daughter out in, I think it was off of Holcomb Bridge. I can't remember. In Roswell by my house. Might have been off Dunwoody. I can't remember. Anyway, not off Dunwoody. It was off of not Doheny. Started with a D. I forgot. Anyway, my daughter wanted to go. So I'm like, okay, let's go. So I'm one of them people, I don't watch horror movies. I'm not about to watch nobody in a horror movie going through a bunch of nonsense. I'm not going to watch that. Because I'm not about to impregnate my mind with all that chaos and mayhem. I'm talking about spiritual stuff. Stuff that actually happens. I'm not about to be shook. And I'm not going to call it, oh, it's demonic. You got to ignore it. No, these are natural things that happen. These are things that actually happen, friend. That movie was based on a true story. That happens. Like, I know horror stories happen as well. But what I'm speaking to is, if it shakes you to the core that you can't watch it, and it's about the battles of the angelic versus the demonic, and it really shakes you. I didn't find that movie that traumatic. I didn't see that. It wasn't anywhere near something like that. And I'm the type of woman that won't watch a horror movie. But that's just me. I'm not here to judge nobody. But I went to the haunted house with my daughter. And I'm not one to go through the haunted house, so I'm up in there, and they got all the goons and the goblins and the smoke, and it was really well put together. I mean, it looked like something that you would see that was really reality based. And I'm walking through, and I had my daughter's hand. I didn't want her to walk behind me. She walking ahead of me so I could see her. I had her hand, and the floor starts moving and shaking, and then this thing jumps out of nowhere on me, and I hit the floor. And my daughter hit the floor with me. And she's like, Mommy. First thing I went into was protective mode of my baby. And then once I realized what was going on, I said, okay, we got to get out of here. But we had gone too far in the house to turn around. I had gone too far to turn back. So I said, I put on my shield. You know, I don't know, many of you knowers know what that shield is. It's something that comes over you. It just comes over you. And you're capable. Oh, we're going to get through this. And I had my baby like this. She might have been 5. And I wasn't letting her walk. And she wanted to get down and walk. But And we're walking through it. And I made my way through and out. And I thought at the end, wow, that was something else. I didn't really get a chance to pay attention because I was on guard. I went into protective mode. And that is kind of like how it is when you go through these fearful situations in life. You can't turn. Sometimes you get so far in a thing, you can't turn around. Because, friend, even turning around, that demon will show itself on that other side too. You gotta face stuff. You can't be running and hiding. Where is your faith? This is what I talk about. Where is your knowing? Where is your knowing? Just as this woman in the movie Blink Twice, when she came into her knowing, she came into the realization of what was going on. She could have easily did what a lot of people in movies do. Oh my God, where do I run? I'm gonna run out into the wilderness and try to find. She didn't do that. She faced it. She looked at him and confronted him. She stood in her power. She said, nah, give me that back. And he crumbles because he's burdened with guilt. He's a paper tiger. He looks strong. He has the money. He has the resources. They've weakened him. All they've done is weakened him into a perpetual state of denial. And all he could come up with is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There is no such thing as forgiveness. It's only forgetting. Oh, is that right? Well, you're going to tell me how that feels. Because now I remember. And now I know what's going on. And I want you to see what it's like to forget. While I remember, it's easy to mask a thing. It's easy to act like a thing didn't happen. It's easy to forget, to put up methods to forget. Drinking too much, drugs, all these things smooth the rough edges. I know, I've been there. I wrestle with things myself now. I've never been an alcoholic. I don't want nobody out here thinking I'm over here like, oh, I can't. It's not that. But at times in life, in high stress situations, friend, if you come in and out of enough stuff in your life, friend, I don't care who you are, there's going to be something that you do too much of in one season or another. So don't sit high and look down low. And please don't be one of the people out here like Slater King, inflicting your trauma on people and then judging them for what they do to forget, for what they do to get through it. Because a lot of that is going on. Why don't we find ways to stop inflicting the trauma? Why don't we find ways in dealing with our own individual demons? It's an individual thing. I've been saying this for the last 4 Bible studies. If we could all look at ourselves individually. I know God created us to be a collective and to do all of this stuff as a group. I am not negating that. But in order to play fair in a group, you got to be whole. Because if you're not whole and you come amongst the group, you will infect the group with your trauma. And that is what's happening amongst many people. Not everybody, but many people. And a lot of people use money to justify it. I find that it's the people with the least money that can actually handle the truth better than those that have a tremendous amount of money. The people with the least money are able to go through the hard things, to face the hard things better than those that have a lot of resources, friend. I'm here to tell you. So this is my Bible study. This is my my podcast conversation for y'all today. Everybody come and pull their own weight. Everybody, and the world will be a much better place. I'm here to tell you. It'll be so much better. But if you just out here projecting your trauma on people and justifying it because, you know, you're popular and everybody agrees with you because you're popular, knowing you're wrong, you're just a cancer amongst people. And then sits up and says, oh, look at them over there. See? I told you they were deserving of that trauma. Because look at how they are. No. You inflicted your trauma on these people, and that's why they over there acting like that. Had you not done that, they'd be much better. But because you can't wrestle with your own trauma, it's too much for you. You feel like you got to go throw that out on everybody else. Love y'all. I don't know if I'll post this one. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace and love.